Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining today's sales enablement webinar. I want to say special thanks to Jason Lenny, Director of Product Management over GitLab CI/CD section, and Jason's going to walk us through kind of what to expect, roadmap and vision for the next 12 months. This is a precursor kind of leading into sales kickoff. So I appreciate everybody participating. We'll do maybe a little bit more than 10 minutes of an overview of Jason walking through the handbook section for the CI/CD vision. And after that 10 minutes or so, open it up for Q&A. So without further ado, Jason, I'll pass to you.
Great, thanks. So I've shared my screen here with the CI/CD homepage. And what we have here is basically everything that's upcoming for CI/CD. You can get to this by going about gitlab.com/directions/CI/CD. And what CI/CD covers is the verify stage, the package stage, and the release stage. You can see a little bit of a diagram here of how these relate to each other. But the simplest way to think about it is verify is build and test. Package is the artifacts, so the storage of the artifacts that might be generated during the build and test cycle. And then the release stage is all about delivering the software to the environment, or however you release your software. So it could be packaged software, it could be anything. Sorry, what was that? Okay. There's a ton of content on here, so I'll just do a very brief tour of what's available. And then I'll dive in on a couple sections as well. There's a little bit about the market. There's an internal link here to the market data that we're based on, a little bit about the maturity that we have. Every month we have an internal meeting where we talk about the content that's on this page and where we're headed, and it's an opportunity for engineering and UX or anybody else to come ask questions. So that's always recorded every month and then uploaded here with the latest version. And then we have a few sections that introduce the overall CI/CD section and where we're headed, and I'll quickly touch on these. In terms of the competitive space, I think the big takeaway here is that the pace of change in the CI/CD area is really, really fast. Things that we consider mature in the space, like Docker, have been out for like 6 years. And so we expect that pace of change to continue. And you'll see that reflected in our multi-platform trend, where we're starting to invest more in going after different individual technologies that are following along here. The trend toward consolidation is that you've probably seen this in the market, but lots of companies buying other companies and trying to build out a more comprehensive single application solution. We're lucky in this regard because we're already there. We've already got a single application that ties everything together, and we can really take advantage of that. And again, you'll see that in our themes. Making continuous delivery real. So the classic continuous delivery book that must have come out 10 years ago now had these 5 principles at the heart of continuous delivery that we think are still really, really relevant. And all of what we do with continuous integration, with the packaging, the testing that we do, and then deploying that is designed to enable this continued vision of continuous delivery. And then another category theme that we'll touch on is progressive delivery, which is a nice evolution of what continuous delivery offered. Some interesting challenges and opportunities here. For us, CI/CD is obviously a super competitive market. So we're competing with a lot of people who are investing a lot of money and doing a lot of cool features. GitHub in particular is a company that we're monitoring. We are doing that. Spinnaker as well, and to a certain extent Drone are also doing really, really interesting things that we're trying to take inspiration from and follow, and also innovate in our own way. The opportunities that we have here for CI/CD is that the biggest one, I think, is that our single application is really an incredible foundation for delivering. Most of the solutions in the space are point solutions that do feature flags, or they do something like review apps, or they do something like CI, or they do individual pieces of what our application can offer. But we're able to tie things together in a way that's super natural, that's well integrated into people's workflows, and is really, really powerful. The continuous delivery and package stages are represent new markets for us to go after. We've done really, really well with continuous integration, getting our foot in the door. And so these are great to expand, to sell into new markets. And then a lot of these companies that aren't consolidating, that aren't merging with other companies are starting to lose ground. So that's good for us to try and get in there, try and solve problems that these companies are not able to address. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold. On the strategy side, overall, it's a big strategy area, so this is a bit high level, but we want to get everybody involved in software build, test, into the single application. At this point, we're competing, like I said, with individual tools, and we're really able to tie things together in meaningful ways that our competitors are not. So everything you'll see sort of ties into that. We have a great example of our releases feature that came out recently. It's now connected to milestones, so you can see for a release that's coming up how the software development that's happening as part of it can tie into like a burn down chart for that release, and you can be aware of how things are tracking in the release. No other application that has just release management or just issue tracking is able to do that as naturally as we're able to. And then it goes beyond that, right? Because we tie merge requests to issues, which are then tied to the release. So we have visibility into merge requests. Then with merge requests, we have visibility into code. So that's a really powerful way to tie things together that is going to be huge for us. And then the next section of this document is plans and themes. There's 5 or 6 themes here that I think are all really interesting that we're pursuing. Each of these sections has related epics that you can explore. You can drive down into each of those. The ones that I want to touch on, though, for the purposes of not spending too long here, are multi-platform support. I touched on that a bit above, but there's a few key technologies that are emerging. ARM is a big one. Fargate is another big one. There's things like Google Cloud Run. There's other technologies out there that we want to be there with our customers and support better. Of course, another big one here is the Mac and Windows shared runners and having those available in our shared fleet. So that's a big investment for the runner team as we go forward to support these, to make it extensible so that we can do these things. So for those of you who are selling into these different architectures, stay in touch with us, let us know what you're seeing out there in the market, and we can try and support those. There's a bunch of them that we're doing there's even more than listed yet. The next one I want to touch on is do powerful things easy. And this one is all about, well, I think that maybe a better way to put it, the most interesting one here, I think, at least immediately, is the get up and running quickly with GitLab CI/CD epic. And what we've got in this issue is a really, really great one because we shared it to Twitter and we talked about it with a lot of customers, and people put in a lot of feedback around what it was like the first time they were using GitLab and how that experience was and how it could have been easier, how it could have been much more clear the value you're getting. So investing in these, and part of this is analytics as well, so you can see what's happening as you're starting to implement GitLab and see the improvement. I think this is going to be a huge, huge driver for sales cycles because you'll get that feedback more quickly. People will find and be able to do more powerful things with GitLab CI/CD more quickly. And then they'll be getting feedback from the product itself that shows them how much they're improving as they start to roll out GitLab, so as they start to prototype it on different projects. So that's a really important one. And then another part that I wanted to highlight was the natively supporting hypercloud deployments epic, which is about really supporting the things that are cloud native that we would say, like, Amazon ECR, the basic container deployment systems that all of the cloud providers offer that are non-Kubernetes. Right now we support those. It's pretty easy to get them up and running, but it's not really obvious how you do it. You sort of have to know how to set things up. You have to, excuse me, write the GitLab CI YAML yourself using different scripts, and you run your AWS commands and things like that. We're going to make that much more automatic, much more auto DevOps-like when you're using these kinds of hypercloud providers that are, and not their K8s, Kubernetes solutions. And then the last one I wanted to highlight was progressive delivery. which is the one that I mentioned is sort of the evolution of continuous delivery. There's some interesting blog posts here that talk about this kind of emerging concept that we've embraced. But the core idea is that there's a lot of technologies out there that have been developed since continuous delivery came out that enable you to have just unprecedented control around how you deliver a feature and how it slowly goes out to customers and who can see it at what time. A/B testing is part of that. Review apps are part of that. Feature flags are part of that. GitLab just can enable, because we have review apps and nobody else has that, because we have feature flags in the product now, because we can tie those to issues and we can track how things are going per environment, which we have as well. And we can incrementally roll out to all of those. We can do targeting using feature flags to individual users or different segments. You're able to just have an incredible amount of control and safely deliver changes to your production environments without really having to just kind of like do the big deploys like I used to do at the beginning of my career, where you get everybody in a command center together and just kind of like drop it into production and see what happens. You don't really need to do that anymore. You can run these production deploys from your desk, and they can be non-events because you've so finely targeted who can see the change. Excuse me. So those are the themes I wanted to highlight. There's more here. I'd be happy to talk about any of them. There's even more detail a little bit lower on the page around like what Verify is doing here, what the important things that the Verify stage has identified. There's, again, a detailed page for each of the categories within each stage. So if you're really interested in what we're doing with load testing, for example, you can go over to the strategy page and you'll see that there's a detailed plan here for bringing that to maturity and what our customers are talking about it. And so it would be great to get sales feedback on all of those, of course. Similar thing for package, and then a similar thing for release as well with all of the different categories. Then the last thing on this page is the what's next section. You can see for each of the stages that are part of release, that are part of CI/CD, what's being delivered in the 12.6 release, the 12.7 release, and I think about out to 12.8, maybe 12 a bit in 12.9. Oh, I guess there's a few things that we know we want to schedule for 13.0, which are kind of associated with that major change. So there's a couple items there as well. So that's the content that you can find on the CI/CD section page. And with that, I guess I'll turn it over for just open questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. A lot of good stuff, adding more value for our customers. I also see that William Chia joined us. Thank you, William. Anything before we open up the questions? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, and if folks have questions, please pop in. But I'll share a little bit while some questions are coming in a chat. So from Jason's page, I just wanted to share some other content, kind of tying together Jason's vision to some other concepts that we talk about on the go-to-market side. So one page is, of course, our customer use cases. This is how we're applying command of the message, how we're going to market with GitLab. And I just want to point out that of these kind of use cases that we've defined, which are discrete problems that we believe are reasons customers choose GitLab, it's kind of, this is how we define in the customer's terms what we would call a use case. And just calling out that CI and CD are use cases. And so as we're going to customers, they're going to be looking for a CI solution. In particular, they want to increase the quality of their code. They want to automate their testing. Or they're going to be looking for CD. And so when we can talk about our vision and our differentiation in these spaces, these are core use cases that customers are buying GitLab for. Towards that perspective, if you think about our value framework, GitLab CI/CD increases all of these value drivers for users and customers. So in terms of increasing operational efficiencies, as Jason talked about, our CI/CD solution is tied into your other tools. Our release capabilities that are coming out, tying our release capabilities to our planning capabilities in a way that no one else is really doing. That's increasing your operational efficiencies. Again, kind of the single application not needing to manage multiple things. But again, in terms of being able to have that all in one place, being able to tie your release to the issue and to the code is an efficiency for you. Delivering better products faster, that is the heart of CI/CD. That's literally what it's about, automating your testing and your delivery cycle. So that is literally the core and the heart of DevOps and delivering better products faster. And of course, in terms of reducing security and compliance risk, CI/CD is the delivery mechanism for all of our application security capabilities. And the idea of having like solid security testing, compliance built into our channels, and we even, I mean, not to go too deep in the weeds, but we can also have logic and a very advanced and complicated logic that we have in our tool, and that we're building into our tool that other folks don't have. So the one I'll touch on here is in terms of differentiators, obviously SCM and CI in one application, and the ability to deploy your software anywhere. So in terms of our release capabilities, this is the differentiator of we're not beholden to a specific cloud. We partner with all of the major clouds, IBM, Amazon, AWS, Google, etc. So our CI/CD solution, cloud agnostic, deploy your software anywhere. The last thing I'll point to, and then I see several questions have come in, is that within our proof points, this is linked from the sales resources page. This is one nice asset because it just has all of the command of the message proof points, and these are public ones here that I'm showing right now. But you'll see, and I'll call out for each proof point, we say what the use case is. So you'll see CI/CD, and so something I talk about with a lot of folks, and our seasoned folks on the calls know this really well. But for newer folks at GitLab, somebody might be buying us for Agile, and if they really, really care about Agile, don't hammer them on our CI/CD. Similarly, if they really, really want CI/CD, they may not care as much about like our source code management. So using customer proof points that match to the thing the customer's buying that they care about, that's really key in terms of you having credibility with that customer. And that's why we've mapped out from these proof points what the use case is. And so you can look for the ones that are CI or the ones that are CD. So with that, let's pop over to some questions if folks want to verbalize those.
Yeah, thanks, William. John, do you want to go first? I see you got the first couple of questions here. John May.
Yep, a couple of things there. First, I went to a few customers in the past week or so, and they came back from AWS, and everyone was talking about something called Tecton, where basically CI and all the corresponding functions get put into a cluster. And they asked us, how's GitLab going to fit into that environment? And would that eclipse and maybe not make GitLab irrelevant in that respect?
Yeah, that's a interesting question. Tecton is a way for implementing CI/CD inside of Kubernetes. So it's useful for certain use cases. Right now, our solution for deploying to Kubernetes is auto DevOps. So that's the easiest way to get up and running with that. How do we plan to work with Tecton? It's certainly possible to use Tecton with GitLab if that's what you want to do. You can just deploy your CI/CD as part of GitLab once, and then it can be run in there. I don't know. Like, if we imagine, at the moment, we don't have plans to re-implement GitLab CI inside of Tecton. If that's the kind of core question there.
Well, I think people are looking at it as, I don't need GitLab CI if I do everything in Tecton. So just something I think as a competitive threat, we ought to really consider looking at how we're going to play in that and what role we can play in that aspect. My next question was really...
I'll just chime in there to say that I think that Tecton is extremely lightweight compared to GitLab CI/CD. So there is a very, very rich set of capabilities that we've had for a long time, that we've built over time. So I think that that's kind of my take on it, is that yes, Tecton is kind of this like, you can do CI/CD and it has some integrations with Kubernetes as such, but I don't think you're going to get all of the rich feature set that we already have today and that we're building. So we can I'll take that back to Mahesh and the team, and maybe Jason, you and I can look at Tecton, especially John, if you're hearing about it more, and if other folks our customers are saying Tecton, we can do kind of a maybe deep dive on competitive there, how we compare. That's kind of my high level take on it. I don't know what you think, Jason.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. That's our normal process. We are aware of Tecton. The focus more is on Spinnaker at the moment in terms of like a competitive risk, just because they have a more capable product. And so we're monitoring that a little bit closely. But as Tecton comes up more, yeah, we'll be monitoring that more and doing what we normally do in tracking the features that they're releasing and making sure that we have a competitive solution that can solve the same problems.
So I have the next question, but just give feedback. One of them is a customer of ours that has about 3,000 seats standardized on GitLab, asked about it. And then another prospect that I'm pursuing that has 30,000 developers asked about it. So all that within the last 10 days. So it's getting a lot of attention, a lot of attraction. All I'm asking is put some attention towards that on our side. The next thing,
something new for sure.
Yep, thank you. The next question I had was around competing with Artifactory. You know, customers come to us and they ask us, we have Artifactory, is that something we can get rid of? And when they look into it, a lot of people come back with a perspective that, yeah, I think we're staying on Artifactory. What's our vision around trying to compete with Artifactory, or are we going to just live with them as in a complementary fashion?
No, we're definitely going after that space. The package team is ramped up now and is starting to deliver different package managers, as well as the dependency proxy. So it's really going to depend on what they're using Artifactory for. People who have multiple languages, especially ones obviously that we don't support yet, it's not going to be possible for them to come over to GitLab instead of Artifactory yet. But the way that we're building things out is that we're trying to get to a place where we have a clear template or framework for introducing new package types. And so those can be contributed, those can be easy to set up. At the core, these things are relatively simple. It's being able to upload a file with some metadata and then get it back later as needed. So the template is relatively straightforward, and we're working to refine that. But yeah, I mean, we're coming out with NuGet, we're coming out with Conan, where the dependency proxy will start with just being able to cache different things that are out there in order to speed up your pipelines, but it's going to be getting filtering so that you can control what dependencies are able to come in, and those capabilities will be added to. Yeah, that's how we're going to compete against Artifactory.
Yeah, and I'll share here that similar to other tools, like for example, GitHub is clearly a competitor of ours, but we integrate with GitHub. You can use GitLab CI/CD with GitHub, and this is our product strategy is to play well with others. So in the sense of like, yes, you can integrate GitLab with Artifactory and they work great together, but our vision is that you could replace that tool. And I'll share I picked this up in the JFrog booth. This is a booklet and swag that they're giving away at shows. And this is how they're viewing GitLab. So this is a comparison that JFrog is handing out. I'll have to take a photo and stick it in the Slack channel. The point is the comparison here is not talking about our source code management. It's not even talking about our CI/CD. These are the package capabilities that JFrog is saying. GitLab, we consider them a very serious comparison. We know that people are using GitLab for these capabilities, and we're gonna compare Artifactory to GitLab. So that type of validation, just even from JFrog, I think says a lot to what we've already accomplished in package and the vision that we have.
Josh Rector, I know you've got a question. I want to be sensitive to time. We've got maybe one or two more. Josh, do you want to verbalize yours?
Yeah, thanks, David. So Jason, first one was simple. You mentioned a big change in 13.0. So what was, maybe I missed what that big change was.
Oh, no, I just mentioned that in 13.0, if that you may see something in 13.0 if there's something that we're planning to do around deprecating or making a large feature. But I don't believe at this point that there's anything scheduled.
All right, great. And then the other one that I had there was around, you mentioned at the beginning, being able to really measure how much better we are, right? CI/CD. So typically you have to establish some sort of baseline to say, here's where we start and here's where we're at. So how do you establish that baseline? Just curious.
Yeah, great question. So we can establish the baseline when they start iterating within GitLab, of course, because that's the moment where we'll have their data. But what we're planning on doing around metrics, at least to start, is use the DORA metrics, which are very, very standard and pretty straightforward and easy to understand and implement in any system, and may even be already supported in whatever they're doing, and they may already be tracking it. So that's a great way to get those really key metrics that have been identified by Nicole Forsgren in her book, and be able to do an apples-to-apples comparison between GitLab and whatever they were using previously. But then otherwise, the main thing is going to be get it into GitLab in the current state that it's in, and then let's start iterating, taking advantage of GitLab features, and really see things accelerate.
Thank you.
Jason and William, are you okay to stay on for a little bit longer for a few more questions, or is there a different way you'd like to follow up with the remaining questions?
I'm not able to stay on later personally, but I would be very, very happy to answer all of the questions that were shared. I can, maybe David, send me the questions at the end, and then I can write answers to them, and we can put them wherever makes the most sense, maybe in the sales channel or wherever else.
Should we tack them on as, if we can post each question as a comment on the issue, and then we'll just reply to them on the issue.
Great.
The other thing I could do is come back in a week or something, and we could just have a 30-minute question session.
Cool. All right, we'll start with I'll put them in the issue, tag folks, and thanks for replying there. Thanks everybody for the participation today, the questions, and we'll continue that dialogue in the issue. And I'll tag those of you. I'll tag Jason, William, and whoever asked each of the questions. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks, William. Thanks, Jason. See ya.